Unfortunately, this video is probably going to upset some people and make them very angry, but oh well, here we go. So in this video, I'm going to talk about old school chiropractic and new school chiropractic. And this is a very difficult topic to discuss, and the reason why is because this was inspired by a patient that I saw yesterday, and I was thinking about it last night of what I was going to say. This was a 19-year-old patient, and she came to me and she had all sorts of sports injuries that she had accumulated from high school, and she played soccer and tennis and track and all these things, and just was a mess. And she had seen chiropractors before, and she actually said something that was shocking, and you might want to know about it, because this girl was smart beyond her years. She actually said, I don't really want to see chiropractors anymore. By the way, she was brought in by her father. She said, I don't want to see chiropractors anymore. It seems like all they do is crack one side, crack the other. They crack your neck for some reason, and they want you to pay like $6,000 up front. And I thought, oh man, yeah, that's exactly it. So in this video, I'm going to discuss for you some things of how to recognize whether you're seeing a chiropractor that's stuck in the 60s for some reason, and the kind of the new way of thinking with chiropractic. So the first thing, number one, the first thing that you need to watch out for is you need a good explanation of what your condition is. And if a chiropractor says you have a bone out of place, that is so antiquated. And chiropractic was developed in 1895, the same year that x-rays were developed by Rontgen. And what happened was, the original theory of chiropractic was that there was a bone that was misplaced, out of alignment, and it was putting pressure on a nerve so that the brain was trying to communicate with the muscles and organs and tissues of the body. And this misalignment was destroying and pinching the nerve. And so the information was not getting from the brain to the tissue, and the tissue was unhealthy. And thus, that was the cause of dis-ease. Okay? So then, the dis-ease could be reversed by replacing that vertebrae to its proper position, reducing the strain on the nerve, reducing the pressure on the nerve, because the nerve would not be compressed anymore, so that the brain can tell the organ how to function properly, and the body would recover. And it made excellent sense to most people. The idea was that you would take an x-ray, see that bone out of place, and with the hands you would put that bone into good alignment. This worked because people got results in their health, but the theory was slightly askew. Here's the problem. Bones do not go out of alignment, and I know that there are chiropractors that have to be smarter than this. It's ridiculous to think that a bone used to be over here and now it's over here, and now I'm going to push it back, or it's just a couple millimeters. Bones do not go out of alignment. The reason chiropractors say that to patients is because patients don't know a whole lot about anatomy, and they will believe it. It makes sense to them. Especially when you go, oh, look over here, I'm looking at your x-ray and I could see a bone out of alignment. Well, here's the problem. The spinal structure is so compact and secured by ligaments and cartilage and joint capsules and muscles. Bones don't shift around in our body like that, even a couple millimeters. And I know that a lot of people say, and you'll be told that you have a bone out of alignment. That's because they're giving you the kindergarten version of chiropractic. The reality, and that is old school, but the reality is bones don't shift out of alignment. What they do is they have damage to the soft tissue that surrounds the joints. Joints are where bones come together. The joint capsule, the ligaments, the tendons, the muscles, all that stuff around can get injured. When that happens, then there is scar tissue or adhesions that can develop. Certain tissues can become tighter due to repetitive motions or lack of good motion or trauma. That's how it works. This adhesion can limit the range of motion that the joint is allowed to move through. Now, there are 6 planes of motion that the joint can move through. Bending forward, bending backwards, bending to the side, bending to the other side, and 2 rotations. That's 6. So these are normal motions, and a normal joint in the spine should allow those motions to occur. Here's the challenge. If you have adhesions on one side or both sides, you will lose that range of motion. If you don't use it, you lose it. Therefore, then the cartilage, the synovial fluid, becomes damaged. And now you've got a serious problem. This causes bad neurological inputs up to the brain. The brain now understands that there's a lack of motion somewhere. Now it's going to try to compensate by moving in a even worse way somewhere else. That's called a compensation. And now you're going to get the whole process started over again until your whole spine is damaged, if you live long enough for that to occur. This is well researched. This is not just researched in the chiropractic field, but in the orthopedic fields, the medical fields, and it is well understood. This is new school chiropractic. This is how chiropractors should be explaining their problems to patients. When you do that, it makes sense to people. I have many patients who are dentists, medical doctors, many people in the medical field, and they are skeptical. Some of them are very skeptical because they just don't understand, how could a bone be out of place? Exactly. And I tell them that the reason you think chiropractic is weird is because you think a bone goes out of place, or at least you've heard that, you've been told that. When I explain to them the physiological reactions that occur that cause their pain, it makes sense to them because it's based upon the scientific literature. That's the reality of it. So this idea that a bone goes out of place and pinches a nerve is very, very oversimplified. So when a new patient comes in and says, well, can you put me in place? We actually spend about 5 minutes explaining anatomy and how the spine works, and then it makes sense to them, and they realize that what we're trying to do is we're trying to restore good function and good motion into the joints of the spine. When we're able to do that, they tend to have less pain, less muscle spasm, less problems neurologically, and their body actually has the ability to recover from some injuries. That makes sense to people. The second thing that seems to be a problem for most patients, and it's justified, is the use of x-rays, again, to look for the bone out of place. Well, listen, man, I'm an athlete, okay? I race bicycles, I race cyclocross. If I had to have an x-ray every time I went to a chiropractor, I'd be dead by now. So when I was in school, I learned Gonstead, I studied Gonstead, and we were essentially taught to take a full spine x-ray of a patient every single time they had a new injury, and even then to re-examine them periodically. A full spine x-ray. Now, the way we took full spine x-rays with high frequency x-ray machines, we had breast shields, we had gonad shields, we had thyroid shields, and all these things. There was a minimal amount of x-ray compared to years past. But, you know, I fall on my bike 3-4 times a year in cyclocross racing. Not a big deal, but I need a chiropractor that can assess injuries, and only if there's a reason for an x-ray to take an x-ray. And x-ray the area where I need it. If I have a neck problem, don't x-ray my gonads simply because your philosophy says to take a full spine x-ray. This is why I no longer take full spine x-rays as well as x-rays in general unless it's absolutely necessary. I will take x-rays, sure. If someone falls down a flight of stairs and there's a potential for fracture, then I'll take an x-ray. If I think there's some disease process in a person's spine, I'll take an x-ray. But for maintenance care and general assessments, I will always assess the patient first. So old school thinking was, patient comes in, take a full spine x-ray. 12 visits later, take full spine x-ray. Another 12 visits, take full spine x-ray. New injury, full spine x-ray. It's ridiculous. The guy Gonstead, he passed away over 50 years ago. It's time for our profession to move on and learn better assessments. So in the past, and this was even 50 years ago, Gillet and Illy were European chiropractors and were unable to take x-rays. Actually, Illy, I believe, took digital motion x-rays, even back then. Can you believe that? Wow. But digital motion x-rays to study how the spine actually moves. And when the spine actually moves well, you could see it on a digital x-ray. The problem with digital motion x-ray is there's even more tremendous amounts of radiation that goes through your body. And now we know, of course, that excessive amount of radiation can cause and be a leading cause of cancer. So we don't want to do that. It was Gillet, a Belgian chiropractor, who actually found that if he saw the digital motion x-ray, he essentially learned a procedure called motion palpation. And that motion palpation was a way to use our hands to assess the motion of the spine and do exactly what we would do on x-ray, digital motion x-ray, but without the x-ray. Because in that time, chiropractors were not allowed to diagnose and not allowed to take x-rays in that country. It was Leonard Fay who eventually brought motion palpation and mastered it and brought it to North America, and that's of course where I learned it, from the Motion Palpation Institute back in the early 90s. So instead of taking an x-ray, looking for a bone out of place, now what we do is we understand that actually the benefit of chiropractic is to improve good quality motion in the spinal joints and the extremity joints. And we can assess this through our hands with motion palpation. That is more of new school type of thinking. The third and final kind of gripe that's going to piss off a lot of people that actually this 19-year-old patient actually said was, it seems as though every chiropractor she saw seemed to adjust her right side, her left side of her lower back. In other words, her sacroiliac joints, because that's what every chiropractor seems to be adjusting. Then they would give her a hug, do the anteriorities, and then adjust both sides of the neck. That's called the flying 7. So you adjust the sacroiliac on one side, sacroiliac on the other. Then you do the anteriorities, then you do a scissors move, you do that move, and then you do the neck, and that's 7. So the flying 7, doing the same treatment on every single patient. This is very old school. Someone comes in, they have neck pain, you adjust their entire spine. Someone comes in with back pain, you adjust their entire spine. Tennis elbow, what are they getting? They're getting a noose put around their neck and yanked. How many times do I have to be in my office and say to a patient, now have you ever seen chiropractic on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, these types of things? And people say yeah, and their eyes dilate, you can see they're scared. And you have to let them know, I'm not going to put a towel or a whip around your neck and pull you halfway across the room. And 99% of the time, most people go, oh, thank God, that scares me. And it should. It should. We have to tell people why we're not wearing yoga pants in our office. It's gotten ridiculous. TikTok has been the worst thing possible for chiropractic. I don't know why certain people in our profession seem to be just making a joke out of it. But it is what it is, right? And that's that. So the flying 7, it seems as though if you watch some people's channels that you'll find that they do the same thing to every single patient, every single time, in the same order, the same way. It doesn't matter. That is old school thinking. Imagine if you saw a cardiologist and he put stents in people's hearts. No matter what, whether they had pneumonia, a headache, a knee problem. You saw me, I'm a cardiologist, I put stents in, that's what we do. There's probably doctors like that, that do that in every profession. But it seems as though that is very old school. A long time ago, chiropractors used to use what's called the Meric System, and they learned where the nerves go to different parts of the body. So let's say you had pneumonia, they would adjust you in the upper thoracic spine because that's where the nerves went to the lungs. Okay? So that made sense, of course, back in 1930 and 1940. But that was old school chiropractic. This is new school chiropractic. Now we know that sometimes these fixations or abnormal joint motions can actually cause compensations, and very often the compensations are where you get the pain. That's where you get the pain. You don't get the pain in the misalignment, so to speak. You don't get the pain in the fixation. You get the pain in the compensation. This is modern day chiropractic. Every chiropractor should know this. Why don't they know this? I don't know. It drives me crazy. So those are the three reasons that we need to go from old school chiropractic to new school chiropractic. Please, if you're a chiropractor watching this, I understand you're offended. I get it. Nobody likes to be told that, gee, we need to learn more. But it's possible to learn motion palpation. It's possible to learn to assess patients' function. And there's many types of ways to do that. And this is just spinal motion. But you can actually take the, integrative diagnosis seminars from that guy that branched off from the active release technique. Great seminars learning how to assess adhesion in soft tissue is a whole next level. Rehab is a whole next level. So as a chiropractor, if you learn how to assess function of joints, learn how to assess function of muscle, learn how to assess function globally as well as intersegmentally, you can be a great modern day new school chiropractor.